Welcome into another podcast of the Nest ATL, powered by Nick LaMonte Real Estate. Now is a great time to buy a home. Nick LaMonte Real Estate is with Ansley Real Estate, Christie's International, with more than $100 million in homes sold. Nick has the experience and local knowledge to help you find the perfect property from Buckhead to Milton and throughout the greater Atlanta area. As an Atlanta native, he's ready to go to work for you. We've got a very special guest of the Nest ATL today. Falcons fans might know him as Spoon. Others might know him as a coach. He is Sean Weatherspoon joining the podcast today. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited to be on the show, actually.
Absolutely, man. Certainly appreciate it. Getting some D block action on here. We're gonna actually ask you about that in just a second. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on the 2026 Falcons. You know, there's been a lot of turnover. Kevin Stefanski coming, Ian Cunningham, your former teammate Matt Ryan, now the president of football over there. Based on this offseason, how do you assess this team right now, man?
Well, I'm super excited for Matt to be the president. I think that's pretty cool. This Stefanski hire. I know he's had some success, but kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. When we did decide, well, when the Falcons decided to hire him, but I think he's done a good job when he's had a great roster, and I think the Falcons are in a situation where everybody believes that our roster is pretty doggone good. So everybody thinks we should be in the playoffs. So I think they have a big task, and Cunningham, being from this area, being a first-time GM, I think I can see that he's super excited about the job, and seems like they're focused. Man, a good buddy of mine, Austin Hooper, is back in town, so Austin and I have gotten a chance to catch up a few times, and they seem to be on the right path. So expectations are high, man. So hopefully, we can get some wins this year.
Absolutely. And you look at the linebacking core. It's a position group you know very well, being a former first round pick, playing that position for this team. Jalen Walker, he's a guy that I think a lot of Falcons fans are looking to sort of take that next step, especially with the potentially imminent suspension of James Pierce Jr. Jalen Walker may have some more free will, I guess, for lack of a better term, to really own that edge rusher type role.
Mhm.
What do you expect to see from him to sort of take that next leap this season?
Well, when we drafted him, obviously we were super excited. He's a player that really did a great job between the hedges, and I got a chance to watch him play in person before, and very energetic player, brings a lot of charisma and fierce player. I think last year it was good to see him out there and see what he could do, and I think you'd love to see that grow. I saw some things where I saw him in a couple of tough situations. I was actually at the New England game when he was defending a wheel route, and I was like, man, he kind of did that a little bit more at Georgia where he dropped back some, and but I thought he was more effective when he was rushing the passer. So it'd be interesting to see how that year two is. I know year two is always a great year for a player that had success in his first year, but that second year you're really looking to see him take that next step. So of course he's going to be called on more with the decision kind of looming on Pierce Jr. But I think he's ready, man. He's this player that's excited. That's exciting to watch, and I think we'll be able to see what he can really do in year two. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure he's looking forward to it, and I know the Falcon fans are really looking forward to him being effective and ultimately being a leader on this defense that can kind of put us over the top.
And no doubt. As a defensive player, former defensive player, looking at this Falcons defense, seeing what Brick was able to do with that defense, getting all the sacks in 2025, when you watch them on film or you watch them during a game, do you notice something that makes them as effective as they are with how Jeff Ulbrich is coaching them?
Well, I think Brick has just become a little bit more aggressive. This the scheme that they're running, but it kind of it's growing a little bit to be more aggressive. But it was always Pete Carroll, Gus Bradley, Dan Quinn. They want to drop back with a great defensive line and then knock the ball off of you with the athletic players that drop back in their cover three, and they'll have a chance to go some man free as well when they want to be physical and really make sure they're tightening up the coverage. And you can see that you can see it growing to a little bit more with some blitzes, and I think that's what you want to see. You want to see an attacking style defense because you can't always depend on the D line to get that pressure when you're dropping back in zone. Zone is designed for you to keep everything in front of you, but you really have to do a good job of affecting the quarterback with four. and so I've seen a good mixture of that. I think it says a lot when they want to keep a defensive coordinator when they're having a new GM, new head coach. I mean, a lot of new president. A lot of things were kind of moving, but they decided to keep Ulbrich. I think that's positive for the team, but losing the outside linebackers coach, who I went to college with, Jacque Smith, was a great player at Missouri. Played at Tampa Bay, had some really good moments there as well. And I thought he did a great job these past 2 years of getting that defensive line unit and that outside unit to get some sacks because there hadn't been a lot of sacks in a while. So whoever may be filling in that role, because he's going to Texas Tech now, I think they have to do a good job of continuing, what he's kind of started these last 2 years. And if we can get to the quarterback the way we've been getting to the quarterback, then I think our offense will score some points, and that'll give us a chance as a defense to go out and close out some games when we have a lead.
Yeah, a lot of momentum, hopefully continuing over from that 2025 season for Jeff Ulbrich. Now, you just mentioned him, obviously, being your former teammate, Matt Ryan. When you heard that he was going to become the new president of football for this team, I know a lot of fans, or not necessarily Falcons fans, but maybe NFL fans saw that and were
Mhm.
like, man, what does Matt Ryan know about president of football? I mean, we saw him, the player that he was and what he was able to
Mhm.
do on the field, that kind of thing, but it's a front office role. It's a different, set of responsibilities, that type of thing. The early
Mhm.
returns, I feel like watching how the fan base has responded and seeing the stuff that the team has posted, what Matt Ryan has said, have seemingly been pretty good, especially with this draft class. I feel like a lot of Falcons fans were pretty satisfied with it.
Mhm.
When that announcement was made, knowing him the way you do, what was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was awesome. I need to get my shoes ready. I want to be in the building. I want to help the Falcons restore the energy we once had. So I had a chance to chat with Matt to congratulate him, and man, I was just super stoked for him. But it always looks good this time of the year, man. You have a good draft, which I think that's his first draft. I think was pretty dang on good. They went and got some pieces that I think fit what they do. So that was great for me to see that. I think the one key hire I've seen so far, other than that, was Kevin Winston. Kevin Winston being the director, I think he's the vice president of player affairs. And Kevin was here. I think he was director of player personnel when I was on the Falcons. And he was a guy that it was a no nonsense type of guy, man. He made sure that guys were going to learn how to be pros, guys were going to do what they needed to do. He put you in the right part of town where you can be a pro and get to work on time, make sure that, the main thing is the main thing. So I think the Kevin Winston hire should shore up a little bit of the character things that we're seeing with the Falcons because we want to keep our name out of the media in the wrong light, and we want to be able to be dependent on, as players. And I think K Dub, as I like to call him, he'll get those guys ready to go, man. So I'm super excited for them. And I think Matt, it just makes sense. He's a guy that's done an awesome job as a player. With given an opportunity, I'm sure he can learn how to be a great president. So he's got some good people around him. And he's a guy that loves to win. He's a fiery guy, as you guys see with some of the social media posts they've been putting out. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't give a damn about no social media. I want to see the Falcons go out there and win some games. And I think sometimes you can get caught up with, making sure that it looks a certain way to where sometimes on the field you can be lacking. So I hope that's not the case because everybody's gonna be looking and you will be judged in this league. Everybody knows it, man.
Yeah, perception is everything. And I'm really glad you brought up Kevin Winston. My first guest on this podcast actually was D. Orlando Ledbetter. And when I asked him about, how this new regime looks, that was one of the first names he brought up, Kevin Winston, as far as being a big, good influence on this young crop of players there. So it's really interesting that
Mm-hmm.
you brought that up as well. Now, gonna take things back to your own playing days, going back to 2010, when you were a first round draft pick. Look, two of your first 3 years, the team is a number one seed in the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs. They're rocking and rolling. You guys are moving. And when you get that much success that early in your career, what does it do to your mindset to be like, hey, it's like this is how a winning team operates? Or is it one of those things where you get spoiled pretty early on, thinking that this is just the way it is?
Well, I mean, it's kind of when you have a good football team, you're gonna win games. I had the chance to be drafted to a really good football team. Being selected 19th overall, and I want to say I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the Falcons trade. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But they were picking in a spot where it's like they should have made the playoffs the year before. So it's like We got a good football team. You know, you can run the football with Michael Turner. It's kind of what I'm seeing here now. You know, you can run the football with Bijan. You got a good quarterback in Matt Ryan. Now you got some quarterbacks here that have been pretty good. I think Tua has showed that he's a very efficient quarterback. The injuries kind of worry me there. He's kind of had some big shots, and I know that Michael Mike Penix is dealing with the same thing. You know, he's taking shots, he's had injuries, and you got to have your quarterback upright. And I think with having Matt Ryan, he was always available. He was always available, and when we went out there, he always gave you a good chance to go out there and win the game. If you had the ball, if you needed one stop to get it back to him, you knew that Matty Ice was going to come through, and you knew our kicker was going to put it between the uprights and Matt Bryant. So there's some pieces to good teams that I see, within this team, but it's all to be seen. You know, they got to go out there and put it down. But I won't say that I was spoiled or anything. You know, I ended up, just being a part of a good team and being a key part of it. And so, the 7, 8 years I played, all those teams were contenders. And starting here in Atlanta, it was only 2 down years that I had here in Atlanta, and that was 2013, where I missed, I was on the IR, missed some time, and then 2014, where I missed the entire season. And so those were the only, seasons that, we didn't make the playoffs. And when I went to the Cardinals in Arizona, I went to another great football team, Carson Palmer, and those guys had it rolling. Fitzgerald kind of doing what he does. So, yeah, I was blessed. I wouldn't say spoiled because we actually put the work in. And man, I really grew up fast around a lot of older players who could really show you how to be a pro. So hopefully, that's the mesh that we have with this young core and the guys that are drafted. They come in with the right attitude and they can go out and do the job that we've called them to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, spoil is probably the wrong term there, but looking back at those that 2010 and 2012 teams specifically, I have a couple questions here.
Mm.
Number one, do you think that the 2012 team was better than the 16 team? I know the 16 team went to the Super Bowl and they get all the hype, but when I look back at some of the best Falcons teams of the last 15 years, that 2012 team, I was like, man, just from a pure talent perspective, it seems like that was the one for me.
I mean, and I'm biased, right? Because I played a much larger role on the 12 team than I did the 16 team. But I ended up starting for both of those teams. And the 16 season ends quite so well for any of us. But in the fourth game, I ruptured my Achilles, so I had a chance to really watch that team grow. And I'll say those first 4 games, I think we went 3-1. Um, let's see, it started with a loss here against Tampa Bay, where we really gave our young guys the opportunity to go out and learn how to be pros. And that was Coach Quinn's philosophy was, everybody who got drafted, even if you didn't get drafted, I think a guy by the name of Brian Poole, who's definitely a draftable player, he ended up starting as the nickel for that team. So it was a lot of young guys that had to go out and learn on the job, and in that 2010 team, I go back there first because that's when I first got here. My first job was cover the running back on third down. It wasn't your first round pick, you're going to start. It was like I was going into my third preseason game against Miami with a chance to start based on how I played in the base package. But in the dime package, I knew I had a job because I played in the Big 12 where we ran around, we covered people, and I defended the pass really well. And so that 2012 team had veterans. Everywhere you look, you had veterans. And the young players, here I was in my third year. I was one of the younger guys out there. You had Asante Samuel at corner, Dante Robinson at corner, 2 Pro Bowl safeties that year, and William Moore and Thomas Decoud, John Abraham, Jonathan Babineau, Cogs on the line, Corey Peters, he was a young guy as well. Robert McClain, Stephen Nicholas was a veteran. So when I looked around, I just saw players that you could really depend on. They were not learning on the job. I think we started out winning like 7 or 8 in a row. And so I think that team had more of a veteran presence. And I think that's why that team would be better. But as you know, the league changes and we get younger every year. And it was awesome to see those guys grow with the Falcons in 2016 because in those first 3 games, I felt like I had little brothers out there all around. I was like, how are we going to get these guys to come on? How are we going to get them to come on? I'm looking at Babineau, looking at Tyson Jackson, the veteran presence on that team, Courtney Upshaw. We had a young Grady Jarrett who was super fiery. And so there were pieces of both teams that I would like to mesh together to give you the ultimate Falcons team. But to be honest, the 17 Falcons team, those guys are in their second year, third years now. I think that was probably the best roster that we've ever had. But to be honest, I'll take that 2012 team and I'll put it up against anybody, man. And I think that was the greatest Falcons team that I've been a part of.
Everyone always sleeps on the 2017 Falcons, man. They were right. Because I think everyone always looks back. It's like, oh, the offense wasn't as good as 16. Like, sure, it wasn't as
How
good, but it
could
was
you?
still
How
pretty
could you
damn
be?
good.
How could you be as good as 16?
Right. That's
Thir-
what I'm saying.
13, 13 people caught touchdown passes in
Right.
2016, man. That just doesn't happen in the NFL. Matt Ryan won the MVP, but to be honest, the best player on that team was Matt Bryant. And it's sad that we didn't get to use him in the Super Bowl, but that's another story, right?
Right.
But if you ask me, Matt Bryant was the like for sure show. Like you knew when he went out there,
Every
you
time.
knew he was going to put it between the pipes, man. And obviously Matt Ryan had a great season. It was great for me to come back to Atlanta that year, and that was a hell of a team. But that 17 roster, you couldn't have told me that we'd lose against Philly in that game.
Yeah, no, Matt Bryant, automatic every single time. Now, I got to ask you about D Block. Seeing some of those old videos, I remember, as a kid growing up and seeing some of the stuff that the Falcons would post. This was the era, before YouTube really was what the YouTube is today, and the team's social medias that we recognize today was very different than it was back in 2010, 2012, that kind of thing. The first video that I think of is Matt Ryan playing the guitar with the song going in the background. Can you sort of walk me through those old memories that you guys shared with that?
Well, I gotta go back to the veteran presence again. I missed the guy because I was talking about that 2012 team, and there was a guy by the name of Mike Peterson who was just he called him he I was the baby lion, he was the daddy lion. So a lot of the stuff that I learned was from Mike, Coy Wire. Curtis Lofton was still here at the time when I got here, and Stephen Nicholas. Just a lot of great veterans, right? And that's what D Block was. It was our side of the locker room where the linebackers are, and you had to go through D Block to go to the training room. You had to go through D Block, and everybody's going to get taped. Everybody's going to see the trainer, so you're up and down our aisle. And we want you to know when you came through here, it wasn't going to be nothing sweet. It's kind of like D Block, like it sounded like a different place, right? Where the bars go clink, and we wanted to kind of set the tone for what our team was. So we were a physical group, fast group, but we were the most liked group on the team. Like just I could go hang out with the quarterbacks. I could go down, holler at the receivers, go see the safeties, obviously, because they take care of us on the back end, the corners. Everybody just felt really comfortable. And so it just kind of, Mike Peterson, with the great personality, he just kind of, he's like, man, let's see if we can start doing something. I think it was kind of before the whole, YouTube and podcasts and kind of stuff. But we didn't really know, what we had, but we were just having a good time in the locker room and wanted to bring the Falcon fans into the locker room to learn something other than football about the guys that suited up for your favorite ball club. And so it was awesome to bring the young guys on. It was awesome to bring coaches on. And then once we got to the entertainers, man, in 2013, I think the football kind of like we talked about, like how the social media can kind of be a thing, And Mike Smith was like, "Hey, man, Ti can't come. We not doing this. We got to win some football games because we were struggling in 2013, and I think as long as you can handle it as a team, because I see guys now, they have their podcasts in season. I think it's a little different, but if you can handle it and still go out and be a pro, I think that's cool, man. But we were shutting down the Falcons website. People were excited on Fridays, man. We would get off the field for Fast Friday. We'd run in the locker room and we put some Gatorade in like a little in this little cooler thing, and we'd always say, "Reach in there and get you a soda." And Stephen Nicholas would always say, "Falcon fans, Falcon fans," and Mike Pete, man. And it was great, man, to have Matt on. I think that was the first season we did it, and we brought the guitar out, man. Ron Berg came out with the guitar. Deuce is singing, Ron Berg singing. We're all hanging out, man. It was good to see Matt show his musical talents, and it's just a moment for us to grow as a team. And I think those memories are still there, and people resonate. It resonates with people now when they see Matt as the president. So I think it was a pretty cool moment, pretty cool, pretty cool group of people, and a time we'll never forget, man. And it's interesting to see a lot of people doing those type of things now, but we were kind of just doing it, authentically, man. It wasn't about no money, it wasn't about views. It was about just getting together as a team before the weekend, so we can go out and feel comfortable to make sure we go out there and make those plays, man. And we made quite a few plays, man. So that was a good group, good time. D block all day.
I was about to say D Block, the Pat McAfee show before the Pat McAfee show. You guys were really onto something there back in 20.
Most definitely.
That
Most
was going
definitely.
on today, man. You who knows where you guys would be at this point? You guys getting TI on there.
I'm telling you, man. If we keep winning those games and we don't get shut down, I think that thing might be still be going. And who knows how big it could be, or if it's passed on to the next generation. I mean, it could be awesome. But at the end of the day, got to win games. 2013. That was a rough year for us, man. We let Michael Turner get out of here. We brought in Steven, which I love Steven Jackson, but Steve was a little banged up, so we didn't get the chance to really see Action Jackson do what he does. And Dante Robinson was gone, John Abraham. I think those were key cogs on our team that really put us in the hole. And they were a part of D Block too, man. So big ups to all of them, man, in the D Block era.
Now I gotta. I think you just mentioned it. Did you start that yourself, or was that like a combination of people?
Now, I never remember anybody saying, "Hey guys, we're doing it." It was
Uh,
just we're vibing in the locker room. And shout out to Matt Moore. I think he's working with the Atlanta um United football team now. He's doing a lot of the same things he was doing with us with the media stuff. And Matt, he just happened to pull out that camera, man, and we just had a lot of clowns on D Block. And we love to get in front of the camera, ham it up, and have a good time. But I will have to give I'll give myself credit for the energy I brought. And I kind of once Mike Peterson left, I had to keep it going, But Mike was he was the brains behind it all. I give Mike Pete, a lot of love for that, man. But really, it was just the fact that we could hang with each other and we could vibe with each other. And when you get in the locker room, you're not ready to go home. That's what I think made that group special, and that's what made D Block special.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know a lot of Falcons fans that I ask about, Sean Weatherspoon. It's awesome linebacker, first round pick, and D Block. Every
D
single
Block.
time when I ask them about it, I say, "Oh yeah, I used to love watching those videos." Like
I mean, it
every
was
single time.
an amazing show. They would tell us like the website is kind of we got a lot of traffic on the website because
Yeah.
people are excited about Fridays, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Now, again, you mentioned some of those old teammates that you had and some of the playmakers, those guys that were really stepping up at that time. Were
Mhm.
there any guys that sort of flew under the radar on that roster, whether that was defensively or offensively, that, you or maybe some others recognized as like, yeah, he's a key cog in what we're doing here?
And when I look around, I just remember seeing all of the guys that were out there. You just felt like they were the best at what they did. And there was a guy by the name of Vance Walker,
Oh
and I used
yeah,
to call,
Georgia Tech.
yeah. So I used to, and I mean, you gotta love the unsung like heroes on the defensive line because obviously they don't get their name called as much. They're kind of clogging it up so the linebackers can run free and make plays. And Vance Walker was one of my favorite teammates, man. And his mannerisms and just his gestures that he would make, like when I said certain things to him, he's just one of the funniest guys. Like because he's sitting in front of me and I say something, he'd be like, he'd always like just kind of do that, in the defensive meeting rooms and even out there on the field. I tell him something was coming, and he kind of give me that look, man. But he was a hell of a player, had some really good games for us, and he was one of the defensive linemen who I thought was excellent, an excellent teammate, obviously a Georgia Tech guy, and just a hell of a player. And there were guys that were so good on that team that never got a chance to play for that team because that team was so good. There was a guy by the name of Raphael Bush who came in with me. Came out of South Carolina State, just a no nonsense football player. He was a safety, and so he made our team as an undrafted free agent. He ended up playing in the playoffs his rookie year. So that's he's coming from an HBCU, played for the Falcons in the playoffs his rookie year, and he's so doggone good. We don't have a spot for him, and Denver comes and snatches him up in 2011, and he ends up going to play for the Saints. Almost comes back to the Falcons, but never got a chance to suit up for the Birds again. But really did a great job for the Saints, Detroit, and the Bills. And so he was an awesome player as well, man. A good buddy of mine too.
Awesome. And the last three questions I have for you, these first two are rapid fire. Fastest player you've ever played with or against?
Julio Jones,
Makes sense. Pretty much speaks for itself. Okay. And hardest hitter.
Willie Moe,
Ooh,
William Ward.
that's a good. That's a good one. I always think of that hit. I forgot. Was it the Saints game where he like picked up that guy and took him
Man,
down?
I think it might have been the Saints. It could have been the Rams. Oh, it was the Rams because
It was
that
the
guy.
Rams. Yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
I
Yep.
know the tight end. That tight
Mhm.
end went to school with my best buddy Jeremy Macklin in St. Louis, Mike McNeil. He slammed Mike McNeil. I mean, he took him
Oh,
down to the
picked him
underground.
up. And last question I got for you, man. We talked about Dan Quinn, we talked about Mike Smith. Both of them were great in their own right. Both of them got to
Mhm.
NFC championships. One of them got to a Super Bowl. What was the biggest difference between their coaching styles?
Well, I think Mike Smith was all about the details. Dan Quinn was, I don't really trust these guys with all the details. So let's make it a lot easier. Because, like I said, we're playing younger players. Like, I remember being out there and, like, nobody's communicating. They're growing up, right? And so I think, just trying to simplify it. But I think Mike Smith, he was raising pros. Like, and not to say Dan Quinn wasn't, but what I learned about the game by being a will linebacker in the morning at practice and a Sam linebacker in the evening at practice in 2010, it cross-trained me for, being able to play all the spots in a 4-3 and both inside spots in a 3-4. So Mike Smith was a little bit more detailed, Dan Quinn a little bit more of a talker. So you can kind of feel like a coach's coach with Dan Quinn. But Mike Smith, you better have it together.
Yeah, it seemed that way, Mike being that defensive guy. Not to say Dan wasn't, because Dan obviously
Yeah.
was
It
a
was just
defensive
it was
guy
just a
himself.
different style of defense. Like we just had so much more defense in Mike Smith's scheme. So you really had to dial it in, man. And Mike would kind of stutter a little bit when he get in front of you. He'd be, hey guys, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna run that ball, we're gonna and Dan is kind of, Tupac in the background, like chilling, just easy going, chill, not too uptight, but different styles, but both were able to be effective head coaches in this league.
That's hilarious. And oh, sorry, one more quick question I got for you.
Mhm.
Hard Knocks. Were you there when they were in at Flowery Branch?
Most definitely. And that's what I go back to, like the perception thing, right? 2011, Hard Knocks is calling. I'm like, oh, this is great for my profile. I'm the young player, just balled out. Like, they're like, no, we're not gonna do it. We're focused on football. Get your butt kicked a little bit, right?
Hmm.
Now Hard Knocks come knocking. It's like, oh, we want to kind of put this image out about how we are, And now we did Hard Knocks. So that was the 2014 season, and one of the key moments of Hard Knocks was Keith Armstrong just laying into guys in that special teams meeting room, letting them guys know like you got to cover kick in this league. You got to be a great teammate, and how important special teams is. And I think he might have been talking to a rookie, Devontae Freeman. So that was
Yep.
kind of cool to see that moment on Hard Knocks. But yeah, man, I had some moments on Hard Knocks. I was rolling around on that doggone scooter, but Prince Shimbo was my rookie, and Prince played in my role. And so he'd be at my house all the time, man. And they ended up coming to the house watching me and Prince watch some film. And my dog, who's 15 years old now, that was 2014. That was a while ago. He made an appearance licking the HBO camera. So Hard Knocks was a good time, but you knew it was for the show. You knew it was like, man, are we trying to win some games, or are we trying to worry about how people see us? Because if you win games, they'll see you as winners.
Yeah, I know that was sort of like the era when it was almost like the curse of Hard Knocks, where the team that would be on Hard Knocks is like they wouldn't have that great of a season, and
Yeah,
but
it wasn't a great season. I will say we still had a chance to make the playoffs because the division was just making its turn. It's like
like it
Cam
is right
Newton and
now.
those, yeah, exactly. Cam Newton and those guys up in Carolina were really making that push for it. And I remember Mike Smith being fired, and I mean the playoffs were still an option for us. Like we just,
It was
we,
like the last week, I think.
yeah, like it
Yeah.
was it was crazy. It was like you heard like, oh, the Falcons have hired a consulting firm to find a head coach, and we're literally like about to play,
Yeah,
and that
that
was
close.
that was something that was tough. It's like, wow, this business is cutthroat. It's really cutthroat.
It is very cutthroat indeed. Well, hopefully it's not that way for Kevin Stefanski and this current regime. Gotta give a shout out once again to John Witherspoon coming on the Nest ATL, presented by Nick LaMonte, real estate advisor with Ansley Real Estate, Christie's International. Once again, with more than $100 million in homes sold, Nick has the experience, local knowledge to help you find the perfect property. Buckhead to Milton, you name it. He is the guy in the greater Atlanta area. He's from here and he is ready to work for you. Once again, big shout out to D Block, Sean Witherspoon, for coming on the Nest ATL to talk some ball, talk some Falcons, talk some 2026 Falcons. Always good to have you on. And real quick before we let you go, you got anything going on that you'd like to share?
Oh man, I had a chance to start my coaching career I'm one of the owners at Legacy Sports Complex out in Lawrenceville, and that kind of put me back on the turf. So in the past few years, man, I've been, really around the youth trying to help them, So I ended up getting a head coaching job at Pace Academy last year, and what a show that was. Great experience. I learned a lot. I've moved on from Pace. I'm over at Alpharetta calling the defense. So at AHS, calling the defense this year. We're super excited. We got a, so first year head coach there. I'm a new head coach. He's coached before, Dan Carlisle, but we got a pretty good staff together. We've had a pretty good spring. Super excited about that. So, man, I'm super excited to be on the turf, and that's why I said, like, when I seen Matt get the job, I'm like, if y'all want that energy now, you know where to call. So that's how I'm feeling about it, man. And I'm super excited about this year. And I'll be training some kids. I'll be coaching my kids. I'll be coaching the kids at Alpharetta and just loving life, enjoying being here in Atlanta and being around the game still.
Bringing D Block to the Raiders locker room. I'm excited to see it, man. I got to give a shout out to Cambridge though. There is my Alpharetta team, so I got to
I
give.
like Cambridge, man. I've been calling some players over there. They got the Bierman boys over there, and
Yeah,
I
they
can't
do.
I
Yeah, I went
and
to
I
school
can't
with Brielle actually back
yeah,
in
I
the day.
can't I
So
can't seem to get Croy on the phone. But Croy, if you're out there listening, just holler at your boy, man. You can come get the D line.
get it loaded, Croy. Come on now. All right, man. Well, thank you once again for coming on. Y'all go check out some games this fall over at Alpharetta High School. I'm sure he's gonna have those boys on defense. Rockin' and rollin'. Sean Weatherspoon is your guest on the Nest ATL podcast presented by Nick LaMonte Real Estate.